Hello, it's Dr. Mears, and today we're going to be learning about intercept form of a quadratic function. We do know general form, which is also called standard form in some courses, and that is f of x equals ax squared plus bx plus c. A cannot be 0. If it is, then that term would be out and it wouldn't be quadratic anymore. Now, if you don't know about general form and want to learn about it, you can go back to my other videos. It's there. But let's learn about intercept form. Intercept form is f of x equals a times the quantity x minus m times the quantity x minus n. A here cannot be 0 because, again, if it was 0, we wouldn't have a quadratic function. Now, m and n are both going to be numbers, real numbers. Okay, so let's see what happens. What does it look like when we put real numbers in there? Here's our example. Use the function f of x equals 2x plus 3 times quantity of, let me repeat that one more time. F of x equals 2 times the quantity x plus 3 times the quantity x minus 1 to answer the following. Find the x-intercepts. So to be able to find the x-intercepts, what we're going to do is we are going to take the x plus 3 and the x minus 1. We do not have to worry about this 2. It's being multiplied, so we can separate these. It's called the zero product property, where because these are linked by multiplication, we can separate them and set them equal to 0. So if you ever heard of the zero product property, that's what I'm using. Okay, when I separate these and set them equal to 0, I have to solve each one. X equals -3. So we just found our first x-intercept. That's going to be at -3, 0. And I want you to write it as a point because it is a point. It's the point where the graph crosses the x-axis. We also have another one that I need to solve for, and I find x equals 1. So that's my second x-intercept, and again, I'm going to write it as a point. That's it. Let's find the equation of the axis of symmetry. Now, what we can do is we can use the equation where we take the first x-intercept and the second x-intercept and divide them by 2. Because remember, when we have a graph, the vertex is going to be right in the middle of both of these x-intercepts. And the axis of symmetry is just the x value of the vertex. So let's do that. X equals -3 plus 1 divided by 2. Now, I'm going to do the numerator first. So -3 plus 1 is -2. Divided by 2 comes out to -1. So we're going to write it nice and neat as an equation because that's what we want. We want an equation with the x and the equal sign. So x equals -1. All right. Now we actually have to find the vertex. So we know the vertex, we're going to know that the x value, which we just found, is -1. We now need to find the y value. So we're going to go back up here to the equation, and we are going to substitute -1 in for x. So where we see an x value, we're going to input -1 to find out what the answer is. Now, we substituted in. I'm just going to check 2 times the quantity -1 plus 3 times the quantity -1 minus 1. And when I do that, I can put this whole entire thing into my calculator. You don't have to go through the order of operations. Just put it just like you see it in your calculator, and we're going to get the value -8. So we can put -8. So here is the vertex. -1, comma, -8. All right, now number 4, we have to draw the graph of f of x of y equals f of x. So here, if you see any directions that are like this, draw the graph of y equals f of x, all they want you to do is come back up here and draw this graph. And now we say draw, and draw is very specific because we have to make sure when we draw something, if you're just starting out with a plain graph, you have to make sure there's a scale. So this scale goes by 2s. So this must be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I'm not going to put all of them in there, but I just do want you to notice that I am counting by 2s. Same here. This would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and so on. So just be careful. So when you are graphing and it says draw, you need to put a scale in, and luckily this scale was given to me. You also need to label X and Y. And we're going to put all of these points that we found so that we can make the graph. So the first point that we're going to need is the vertex, and that's that middle point. So -1, -8. So -1 is here, and then I'm going to go down to -8, and I'm going to make a point. So here's the point, -1, -8. Okay, the other points that I need are my x-intercepts. My first one is at -3, 0. -1, -2, here's -3, 0. And my second one is at 1, 0. And that's here at 1, 0. And so this is going up, so I'm going to draw it in like this. Make sure this doesn't look like a V. It has to look like a U, everybody, because if it looks like a sharp V, that's not a parabola. A parabola has this nice curve to it on the bottom. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to label this -1, -8, 1, 0. -3, 0. So in drawing this in, I have a nice scale. I have my labeled X and Y. I have my points, and I have my labeled points. So this isn't a sketch. A sketch is not as detailed. So when you draw, you need a detailed graph. Okay? There you have it. Okay, so let's learn how to go from one form to the next. So here I have changing from intercept form to standard form. And let's just remember, so intercept form is here, so we're going to go from here to here. So remember, y equals ax squared plus bx plus c. The y-intercept is 0, c. So here, we would need standard form to find the y-intercept. If you go back to vertex form here, we can't find the y-intercept here. We can find the x-intercepts nice and easy, but we cannot find the y-intercept. And so that's why we would have to change from intercept form to standard form, is to find the y-intercept and put it as that point 0, c. So that's what we're going to do for these examples. The first thing is we are going to change to standard form, and then we're going to write down the y-intercept. Okay, so how do we do that? So here's the deal. There are many different ways to multiply this out. Remember, this is multiplication. I'm going to show you the first way, which is double distributive. Or double distribute. Let's just do that, double distribute. So that's the first way. So if you like this way, use it. So what double distribute does, let me just write this down. We have to distribute or multiply x by both of these in x and the +2, and then we're going to have to do it again, which is that double time. So we're going to have to do the 5 and multiply it by the x and the +2. What does that look like? Okay, so let's write this down. F of x equals. So we're going to do x times x. That gives x squared. Okay, then we're going to have to do x times +2. I like to circle with my positive, or this might be a minus, so it might be negative. Circle this sign, please. Do not forget about it. So x plus times +2 gives us a +2x, and I'm just going to write it as +2x. Now I'm going to be able to cross that out because I'm done. Now here comes the second part. I have to multiply 5 by x plus 5x. And 5 by +2, and that gives me a +10. So my positives are becoming my plus signs. Now my last step is, because these two are similar, they're like terms because they both have an x, I can combine them. So I have 2 x's plus 5 x's, and you're right, I'm going to get 7 x's. So my answer is going to be x squared plus 7x, which I got from adding these, plus 10. And that's my answer. Okay, that's one way of doing it. My next way of doing it is using FOIL. And FOIL stands for, the F stands for first, the O stands for outer, the I stands for inner, and the L stands for last. So let's try that. Okay, so first, That's the f. So in this set of parentheses, the first term that appears is my x. That's my first term. In this set of parentheses, the first term that appears is my x. So I'm going to multiply those two together. So f of x equals x squared. All right, so I did first. Outer. If I look at this entire expression right here, my outer terms, the ones on the outside, are going to be my x and my 2. They're on the outside. So if we're sitting in a movie theater, everybody, these would be on the outside of the group. And so I'm going to multiply those together. X times 2 is plus 2x. Okay, next, so I got that, check. Inner terms, again, if we're looking at this, our inner terms are going to be the 5 and the x. They're the inside of the group, so I'm going to multiply those, positive 5x. And then if you're looking at this, my last terms, if you're just looking at the x plus 5, my last term is the 5. And if you're just looking at x plus 2, my last term is the 2. So I'm going to multiply those. 5 times 2 is 10. And it is a positive 2, okay? I'm going to do exactly what I did over here. F of x equals x squared. These two are like terms, plus 7x plus 10. I got the same answer as I did here. That's the second way of doing it. Okay, is there a third way? Yes, there is a third way, and that's the box method. So what you do is you set up a box. Okay, so on top of this box, we're going to put the x plus x in the positive 5. The sign has to go with it. If it's plus, it becomes a positive. The second, x, positive 2, because it's a plus, so the plus goes with it. So these signs have to match these signs here, okay? And now we can multiply. So for this box, we have to multiply these two, x squared. For this box, we have to multiply x and positive 5. Positive 5x. Write the sign down. For this box, we have to multiply the x and the positive 2. Positive 2x. And for this box, we have to multiply these two. Positive 10. And then what we could do is we write everything down. X squared plus 5x plus 2x plus 10, and we do the same last step. F of x equals x squared plus 7x plus 10, and we get the same answer, but 3 different ways. So choose a way. I am not going to be doing these 3 different ways every time. So please just choose which one you like, try that, and work through that. These two are very similar. So I'm most likely going to be doing the FOIL method. That's my preference. The box method is a little bit different. I guess once you get used to what you need to multiply, then you could probably switch over to these. So you can switch between them. So I am going to be using the FOIL method to do these next examples. So how I suggest you approach the next couple minutes of the video is to choose a method to do, try it, and then see how I work through it. But you can simply just watch as well. Okay, so number 2, I am choosing the FOIL method to do. So I'm going to multiply my first, x and x squared, my outer, x and positive 6, so positive 6x, my inner, negative 3 times x minus 3x. So if it's a minus, you take it as a negative when you multiply, and then you put it back. Do not give me double signs, please. And my last is going to be negative 3 times positive 6, which is a negative 18. The negative turns into the minus. The negative turns into the minus. And I'm sure some math teachers might be just mad that I'm saying this because it's really plus and minus, but just think about it like that, please. It's simple. Okay, and so let's bring these two terms together because they're like terms. So f of x equals x squared. Now we have 6 x's minus 3 x's, so I'm left with positive 3 x's. If you want to do it in your calculator, 6 minus 3, it's going to give you a positive 3. Don't forget the x, minus 18, and we're done. Okay, this one, f of x equals, All right, so x times x squared. X times -5 minus 5x. -4 times x minus 4x. -4 times -5 gives you a positive plus 20. All right. Combining like terms. So here we have if you want to put your fingers on those end terms there, we have a -5x minus 4x. And if you want to do in your calculator, -5 minus 4, be my guest, what you're going to get is you're going to get x squared minus 9x plus 20. -5 minus 4 is a -9. Okay. And lastly, what happens when we have a number on the outside of the parentheses? So we have f of x equals, this is a negative. Please be careful. This is a -2. And then times the quantity x plus 1 times the quantity x plus 3. So I leave this -2 for last, okay? And I just do that problem. So that's what we're going to do. So I'm going to write down f of x equals -2. I'm going to open my parentheses. And so now I'm just going to do that problem, and I'm going to write it right here. But I'm going to open my parentheses because we are still going to be multiplying that -2. All right, so let's do first x times x squared. X times +3, positive 3x. First outer inner, 1 times x plus 1x, and then 1, and then, oops, I'm sorry, and then last terms, 1 times 3, positive 3. Close my parentheses. I'm going to keep going. I'm going to bring those two together. I'm not going to forget about this -2. I just forgot about the negative, so I'm going to erase it. I'm not going to forget about this -2, and I'm not going to forget to write parentheses there. I have x squared, 3x plus 1x gives us 4x. Don't forget to bring down your +3. So now I have to just distribute one more time. So everybody gets a -2. Remember, this is really a 1. Okay, so let's start multiplying. -2 times positive 1x squared is -2x squared, because -2 times 1 is -2. -2 times positive 4x is a -8x, because -2 times 4 is -8, and it becomes -8. Don't forget to bring down your x. And lastly, -2 times positive 3 gives you a -6, and that negative becomes our -6. Okay, now we have another job to do. That was multiplying. Why did we multiply? Because we wanted to find the y-intercept. So we first said, let's multiply so that we can get from intercept form to standard form. Now we can write down our y-intercept because that's just that last term, 0c. It's the last term. It's the term without the x. There's no x's next to c. So there's the bell. All right, so at either one of these, the last term is 0, so our y-intercept is going to be 0, 10. Done. Number 2, the term without the x is 18. So our y-intercept is going to be 0, 18. How easy is that? Next, our term without the x, our c value is 20. So our y-intercept is going to be 0, 20. And finally, for the last one, our term without the x, or our c value, our y-intercept is going to be 0, -6. Please notice all of my x values are 0 because the y-intercept, the x is always 0, and then my c value are all here. Okay, this has been Intercept to Standard Form and an Introduction to Intercept Form. I hope it helped.